Hi everybody. I'd like to thank Pacific Life and Bob for putting this workshop together, and Dave for putting this session together, which I'm really enjoying. So what I'm going to tell you, I figured I could easily do this in 3 days. I could go down to 2.5 days, but I'm going to try to do it in 15 minutes. So we'll talk a little bit about the basics of digital photography. Basically, if we look really close at a digital photo, we see a bunch of little squares. These things are called pixels, and that's where the term DPI comes in. How many of these little squares fit in an inch? That's the quality of the photo. And you do want to get the highest possible quality photo. Wayne talked about that, how important it is for him to see the details from far away. And this is how Photoshop tells you the size of your image. This particular image is 2.75 megabytes big. It's 6 inches at 200 pixels per inch. It is tempting to use a smaller resolution when you're working out there, because your camera will shoot a little bit faster, and you will be able to fit more data first on your card in the camera, and then on whatever storage device you're transferring it to. But there are several reasons not to do that, but we'll get back to that. Again, these are the basics of exposure. You need to get the right exposure when you're out there, and your correct exposure is going to be a combination of these 4 variables. The light is out there, that's outside of your control. It's either noon or noon and sunny. It's overcast, it's late in the day, you have no control over the light. So the other 3 variables are the ones that we control in the camera. The first is the sensitivity, and that's it's measured in ISO. That's what we used to know as film speed. Some of you remember ASA. And in general, it varies from 2,000 up to actually a lot higher than this. The higher your ISO setting, the higher shutter speed you can use. However, the drawback there is that it increases your contrast. If you have a fluking humpback, if the fluke is not completely vertical, if it's just slightly at an angle, it will be in the shade. If it's an all dark fluke in the shade, it's a lot darker than the white caps on the surrounding waves. So it's quite a challenge. And equipment has really come to help us in recent years. The technology, literally, if I was giving this talk a year ago, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, I would be telling you completely different things. The cameras are really getting a lot better, and this for the latest generation of cameras, excess contrast is not an issue anymore. You can, if you use a Nikon D3 or D700, you will be able to jack up your ISO to levels that you would never touch. But as a rule of thumb, you want to try to use the lowest ISO you can get away with. Shutter speed. Basically, the shutter speed is how long how long your exposure is, how long the diaphragm of the camera is open, how long it allows light to reach the sensor. So that's those are fractions of seconds there. The 160, it goes. The scale goes really far in both directions, from as many seconds as you want on the long exposure end to up to 32 thousandths of a second and more now. When shooting movement, you want to shoot as high as possible. You don't want to be think you're shooting less than 1,000th of a second moving boat. Finally, the f-stop is how much light is coming in through the lens at the time. The lower the number, the more light comes in. f2.8 will let a lot of light into the camera. f11 a lot less. And these increments are each jump doubles the or going this way halves the amount of light that comes into the camera. The same with the speed. So if you change once you set your ISO, if you change the speed, the shorter your exposure, the bigger your aperture has to be. Those are the basics. So this is the big question that you have to ask yourself. These are the two brands. Really, this is the way to go. Most photo ID projects started within the last 15 to 10 years. At that time, Canon was way ahead. Everybody out there seems to be using Canon. Nikon has really made vast improvements. Right now, if you were to buy a camera today, I would say Nikon is the better brand. But there's a lot of personal preference that comes into this. A lot of actually folklore, and I mean it's really interesting. If you ask anybody why they use one or the other, you'll hear all kinds of reasons, and you really have to make up your own mind. Go to the camera store and ask to hold the different cameras. It's not a good idea to buy a used digital camera. The sensor wears out. First of all, the technology is evolving so fast. You don't want a camera that's 2 or 3 years old. The newer cameras do amazing stuff that you need out there. The sensor wears out. The shutter wears out. A used camera is a liability. It can give out at any time. Used lenses, on the other hand, might work very well. A lot of camera stores sell really good refurbished lenses. So when you're choosing your lens, you might go previously on. Telephoto lens is not the same as zoom lens. This is one of those instances where we use the term zoom lens because we want to, we say we zoom in, but a zoom lens is a lens with a variable focal length. It means you can change the distance at which you're shooting your object. They're wide-angle zoom lenses, but a telephoto lens is what you're using out there. It is the zoom lens. The zoom telephoto lens gives you a lot more flexibility out there, especially if you're on a platform of opportunity where you can't control the distance from your subject. One thing to keep in mind, the longer the lens, the longer the focal length, the more any motion will be magnified. If you're shaking just a tiny bit, it will not be apparent. If you shoot with a wide-angle lens, it will make very little difference if you're shooting with a short telephoto lens, but as it gets longer, it will really be magnified to the point where it affects your photo. Usually the 200 to 400 range is what's easiest to use out on the boat. I don't think you can really handhold a lens longer than about 400 millimeters out there. There's vibration reduction technology out there now, which kind of helps you out with that. And okay, so that's what we were just talking about. You want to use a high shutter speed to avoid a blurry photo like this one, and you want to avoid an extreme telephoto lens. There's some nifty gadgets that will protect your camera out there. Aquatech is kind of the state of the art, but a 1 gallon Ziploc bag works remarkably well. You cut off the corners of the Ziploc bag, thread your strap through it, and you kind of have it over your camera, and if you see a splash coming, just cover your camera. There we go. And back to the reasons to shoot large file sizes. You never know what you're going to get out there. You get a photo that National Geographic wants to put on their cover, and if your file size is too small, that's not going to work. Or you get something that you're documenting, like Madalena said, this is a humpback whale. I have been meaning to show this to Francis. I don't know what that is, but the larger file size you start out with, the more you can blow it up. It's a lot easier to go smaller if you once you shut your large file sizes. Amanda's going to tell you how to manage your images afterwards. You can just, if you say today I didn't get anything that I need, you can just make all your file sizes smaller and file them that way. But you do want to have the choice of being able to blow something up and get closer. Media, that's one of the cheapest parts of your equipment, so do invest in some cards to store your images. And now we'll do some sport analogies, because it can be quite taxing to be out on a moving boat for 10 hours doing what is actually pretty hard physical labor. You do want to practice ahead of time. You do want to know your camera, and you don't want to be out there on the ocean and trying to do this for the first time. You can stand at a street corner and shoot pictures of passing cars. You can stand at the beach and get some flying gulls or something like that. But it is important to prepare, and even if you haven't done it, even if you've done it before but you haven't done it for a while, it is remarkable how rusty you get. And it is pretty physically demanding if you know you're going to be out if you know you're going to be starting several weeks of doing this kind of work. You know, like play with some cans of Progressive Soup or something to build up your upper body strength. It can really be a straining on your back. And then finally, use your knees. This is when shooting out there. With most telephoto shooting on dry land, we always try to anchor ourselves as well as we can. We use a tripod, we use a monopod, we lean against something. On the boat, it's exactly the opposite. You want to be as separated from the boat as you can, so you should stand up rather than sit down or lean against the boat. You want to avoid the motion of the boat, so you really use your knees to counteract the movement of the boat. And this is one thing where technology has really taken care of. Now the newer cameras are self-cleaning, but you see these dust spots on the sensor, and this means my time's up. I'm finishing up. This is I mean, I tweaked this photo in a way to show this dust, but you can see how spots like this can really become an issue with photo ID work. And that's it. Turns out.